then we're basically going back and forth over the border, shuffling people in and out from, the Ukraine onto Poland and then onto the UK. So it was a very eye-opening experience. Saw a lot of things that were a bit disturbing. You see sort of kids that were 4 or 5 years old that had been walking for 100 kilometres because they'd been forced to leave their cities and stuff. So I became pretty passionate about the cause there, and I follow it pretty much every day to see how it's all going.
The Canberra hospitality scene is like one big family. Everyone knows each other.
Yeah.
Everyone supports each other. Everyone's, happy to go to each other's restaurants and just get behind each other, which is what I think that's really awesome about the Canberra hospitality scene. Doesn't matter if you're a bar or a cafe or a restaurant or a pub. Everyone gets around each other.
I had a couple of contract offers before going to university, but decided to take the college scholarship. And within 1 year of playing there, I got drafted in the national draft. That was the 8th round pick, which was the highest an Australian's ever gone at the time.
Wow.
Signed a contract with Minnesota and kind of bounced around with them for quite a few years. Yes, I loved it, but I think heard a saying that the best way to destroy something you love is get paid for it. And I really kind of hold that to the DJing stuff too, the producing. I don't want to be forced into doing it. Sort of the love and the enjoyment of it disappears real quickly. So that's something I'm real conscious of now. But yeah, sort of after a couple of years of the pressure of the grind, you play 162 games a year, so you play every day.
So many games.
Yeah.
It's non-stop, 1 day off a month. And you're basically always there. You're just at the field or you're on a bus or a plane travelling somewhere. It can get a bit tiring after a while.
Welcome, boys. Thank you for joining us. The Legends of Braddon in the house.
Thanks for having us.
Got Schwaben and Brady in the house. What's been going on, boys?
For me, not a great deal. Work keeps me pretty busy, but I try and produce a few tracks here and there to just keep adding to the list, and that usually keeps me out of trouble.
Of course. And Brady, you got some things in the works, some secret venues.
Fair bit's been going on. Looking after Assembly, Corella, keeping me busy, and then working on a couple more venues down in the Sydney building. So that'll hopefully open towards the end of the year. So it's all systems go at the moment.
Yeah, awesome. So that's a sort of a bigger venue. This one will be.
So it's going to be
to
sort
Corella.
It's going to be like about three venues in one. Be a bit of a takeaway sandwich deli, a bit of a dive bar in the basement where the old pancake parlour was.
Oh yeah.
And then above that on the ground floor will be another restaurant.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. So that is a massive undertaking,
especially in the current market.
Yeah.
Yep.
But also good to revive. I didn't realise it was in that sort of Melbourne, or was it the Sydney on the side? Yeah, the Melbourne. Yeah. So good to kind of revive that space, which has been a bit derelict. Derelict for a while. And what's it gonna look like?
I guess the restaurant's going to be a bit more of a slightly retro feel in there. The dive bar will be a bit dingy, grungy. And the deli's going for a bit more of a retro feel as well. So not trying to do anything that's going to look out of place in that old historic building, but something that'll fit, I think, quite nicely in that area of the interchange.
Yeah, awesome. And And
they've been working quite hard there to try and keep the aesthetic the same and all the
heritage
listing of things.
They hadn't done anything for a while, but the government's finally just got funding to rejuvenate that building. So get rid of the homeless all around there, and just a bit of the upkeep on some of the painting on the facade of the building. Just tidy it all up
because it is a beautiful old building.
Yeah,
it's an awesome. Iconic spot, awesome. Like in Canberra.
Yeah, it's awesome. So in the next 12 to 18 months, that area more in the interchange on that building will start to look a bit neater.
Unreal. And is that kind of what keeps you going? Is the constant sort of building the next thing and experimenting with that? Is that how you got into it? Or
I actually got into hospitality, I was a carpenter for 10 years before, and I was just doing some picking up glasses on the side at the old Suburban in Dixon. I'm not sure if you remember that.
Yeah.
And I was just getting pretty sick of waking up at 6 a.m. and picking up tools in -6 degree.
So you've been on the tools down there working away?
Not down there, no. I did quite a bit for assembly to get that one open, but no, I'm fully off the tools now.
Good move.
And still doing gigs, mate? Still out and about?
I don't really do many gigs, or really any at the moment. I had sort of a family thing come up. That's why I came back from overseas. And since then, I've just basically been mostly focusing on the production and spending some time with my family and the new job that I've got with the Department of Defence, which keeps me real busy. So I also do the bouncing and that a fair bit for the LSG guys with Jackie Ryan and that. And the sad fact is you can make a lot more money bouncing than what you can DJing in Canberra. So, so
really, yeah. I've never really thought about that. So is there wouldn't be many DJ / security guards in Canberra, would there?
No, don't really kind of fit that criteria very often. It's a bit different. At least I can, if someone doesn't like my song, I can just bash them instead of change it.
Most of DJs these days aren't your size anyway.
No, that's right. No.
And tell us a bit about the travels before you return back to Canberra. Is Canberra your home, would you say?
It is now. Yeah, I'm from Melbourne originally.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time overseas. First off as a professional baseball player. I was drafted out of university over there and spent about 10 years with the Minnesota Twins and the Colorado Rockies. Went and played in Japan and Korea for a bit. Also over to Germany, played there for a couple of years. And it was in Germany that I probably started to get into the music side of things and came back to Australia and got pretty heavily had my own promotion company down in Melbourne. Used to run a few events and stuff at the clubs out there. But then, life came up, got married, had to get a real job. I kind of put it away for a bit and then got back into it during the lockdown just to give me something to do. Stopped me sort of waking up at 10 o'clock and opening the vodka. So it was a good avenue for me and a lot of people kind of experience things like that during the COVID. They had to try and find something to do, and the production was it for me. That coincided with a job opportunity over in the UAE, so I went across there, and you sort of use that as a springboard to just go to places that I wanted to go to, and then perform at venues in cities and countries that I wanted to see.
Unreal, yeah. It's cool when those sort of passions can take you around the world and really is an excuse almost to see the world.
Yeah, well, I found it really useful to sort of connect with people in those towns too. I remember I went to Tbilisi, Georgia, which is sort of right up on the Russian border, and went to a place called Kaspegi, which is up in the mountains, and people that you'd never come across, and that kind of opens up some doors to make some friendships and have some pretty wild experiences at the same time.
What were some of those wild experiences?
Well, I went to Nepal. I DJ'd there in Kathmandu, and I don't think anyone spoke any English.
Perfect.
They smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah, they love it over there, don't they? They're just sleepy.
It's their national pastime. So that was very interesting. Georgia was probably my most interesting of the bunch. Just an old Soviet country, and a lot of that kind of still remains there. Very religious country, which was kind of interesting to go to. Almost I think they call it the second most religious country in the world.
Right.
But they do enjoy having a good time, and the food and the drink there was just amazing. I loved it.
Yeah, awesome. And you also don't, I guess, get many people with that athletic background too, and your size coming through Nepal mountains.
No, I stood out. I stood out a bit there.
Stand out a bit there.
Yeah. But and also being kind of a big guy in places like that, you're a bit of a novelty. People sort of want to talk to you as well, and you get invited into places. I remember when I was in Armenia, and I had a taxi driver take me somewhere, and he starts talking, and then he said, "Oh, where are you from?" I told him Australia, and he said, "I've met anyone from Australia." And next thing I know, he drives me back to his parents' house, and we're having like a barbecue in the backyard with this taxi driver I've never had anything to do with, and his parents, and just hanging out for like the whole day there. It was great.
Yeah, unreal. And you glossed over a lot of things there in your little intro. Take us back to the time when you were coming out of college and playing baseball there. What were you thinking you were going to do? What did you do at that sort of point?
Yeah, I kind of decided at a pretty young age that I was going to be a professional baseball player. I showed some pretty good signs athletically at around 14 and 15 and started getting interest from professional scouts.
And this was in Australia?
That was in Australia,
yeah.
So
what year was this? Huh? What year was this when all this was starting?
94, 95, so it's a while ago.
Get the age in there.
Yeah. I still look younger than you, though.
No.
And, so I really got into it. It was a family thing too. My dad played for Australia. I had cousins that played, and I got sort of seen on the world stage. I had a couple of contract offers before going to university, but decided to take the college scholarship. And within 1 year of playing there, I got drafted in the national draft. That was the 8th round pick, which was the highest an Australian's ever gone at the time.
Wow.
Signed a contract with Minnesota and kind of bounced around with them for quite a few years. Ended up having a little bit of a fallout with them, and then re-signed with another team and spent a couple of years with them before heading over to the sort of international markets.
Yeah, awesome. And you enjoyed that time in the professional sports world?
Yeah, yes, I loved it, but I think heard a saying that the best way to destroy something you love is get paid for it. And I really kind of hold that to the DJing stuff too, the producing. I don't want to be forced into doing it. Sort of the love and the enjoyment of it disappears real quickly. So that's something I'm real conscious of now. But yeah, sort of after a couple of years of the pressure of the grind, you play 162 games a year, so you play every day.
So many games.
Yeah.
It's non-stop, 1 day off a month. And you're basically always there. You're just at the field or you're on a bus or a plane travelling somewhere. It can get a bit tiring after a while, and
how does training fit into all of that with travelling and all the games?
Games will start at 7:30 at night.
Yep.
We would get to the field around midday. We do training and pre-game stuff then.
So you're training and playing on the same day, some days.
Yeah, it's all in there, plus a gym session before that. It's just it's pretty much non-stop. And
I wonder why their contracts are so big these days.
Yeah, and they keep a pretty good lid on you too. Like they don't like you going out, and
yeah, right.
That was probably one of the things that got me in a bit of trouble early on. I went across I was 19, I think, by the time they got me, and I consider myself a man because here in Australia you can drink and do whatever you want. All of a sudden I'm over there and they're saying you can't drink. 21, and so I'm trying to put curfews on me. I was like, I had fucking curfew since I was 13.
I've just turned the legal age of drinking.
Yeah, it's a different world, but. It's something that I didn't adapt to too well early on, but I got a bit more mature, and when I was with Colorado, they were much more lenient, sort of allowed a bit of my flair and lifestyle to be into it, which I quite enjoyed.
Going to bars and stealing plates?
Stealing a lot more things than just that.
And what was the reaction were you a hitter?
Yeah, I was a hitter at start with, so I did something a little bit different. I was a very hard thrower, so I signed with the Twins as a catcher or hitter, but then Colorado didn't have any spots on their roster for a catcher, and they said, we want to sign you. Have you ever thought of pitching before? And I said, I've never done it my whole life. And they got the radar going out, and they said, just throw a couple of balls off the mound and see what you got. And I was one of the hardest throwers that they had at the time, so they just offered me a contract as a pitcher. Then I pitched with them for 2 years. So I was one of the few guys that actually did both.
Have you got any highlights on YouTube we can pull up?
There would be some YouTube stuff there. I think one of my old baseball clubs in Melbourne put up some stuff. It's just John Edwards, but you might get the president, the guy that tried to be president. You also might get that, what's his name, the psychic bloke, John Edward. So there's a few things that pop up.
What about the incident, was it down at Narrabundah here when you run through that bloke?
Oh, yeah. Well, they sort of brought in a new rule after that where you weren't not allowed to run through them anymore. But I used to enjoy that both as the giver and the receiver, I guess, because I was a catcher, so I'd often have people, trying to run into me, and I kind of took it as a real personal thing to make sure I held on to the ball and got the out, and the opposite when I was running. I really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, I can't really tell if this is your stuff, but it seems to be another John Edwards here too.
A lot of my career happened before the internet age. So,
Valhalla?
Yeah, that was a gym that I owned down in Melbourne.
Oh, yeah?
helped me lose quite a bit of money. So thanks for bringing that one up.
Oh, you got to try everything?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I had 3 gyms down in Melbourne. The first one was a sports-specific one that I used to run with some Victorian cricketers and a few AFL guys, and we'd sort of train kids sports-specific. Then I opened another gym with a mate that was an ex-SAS officer, and we had SAS fitness going there for a while. It just got to the stage where I was sort of working 70 hours a week and barely paying bills, and that was enough for me.
It's too much.
You're a mug if you own your own business. It's not good.
Yeah, that's amazing. What was the reaction to an Aussie over there coming in out of college as a hitter and then picking up a ball for the first time in the league? Was it the major leagues?
Well, I was in the reserve grades.
Reserve grades.
Yeah, so you belong to a major league team, but
Yeah.
with their they got 5 levels of minor leagues underneath them.
Yeah.
So it's a sort of a long journey up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was with all the reserve grades. And when I first signed, I was a bit of a unique situation being an Australian. There'd probably only been, a dozen or so that had done it by that stage. Now there's probably been 100 kids that have gone through the professional system, so they are a bit more prevalent now than what they were back then. But especially down in the southern states, people from New York, Chicago, LA, they kind of get exposed to people from different cultures and countries. But you go to Birmingham, Alabama, and they've never heard anyone with an Australian accent before.
And then Germany, you were playing in Germany. Is that what took you to Germany?
Yeah, that was the first time that I went there. I sort of decided I didn't want to go back to the grind of the American style of 160 games, and got offered a pretty good contract by a team over there. I had a really good season, but the team finished dead last, and they were fucking hopeless. And I can remember one day, I used to get so frustrated with them, and we had a situation in the game where the coach had told one of the players to do something, and he didn't do it. And after the game, we're all have a little huddle, and we're talking about the game. And the coach has said his thing, and I just said, I can't fucking believe this. I go, if a coach tells you to do something, you got to do it. There's no thinking. You just do what you're told to do. I said, it's not a democracy, it's a dictatorship, and you fucking Germans should know what a dictatorship is. And that went down like a lead balloon. Had to make an apology to the team and all this kind of stuff.
And that was around the time you were like, I might give this music thing a go. Yeah,
I enjoyed myself pretty good over there. I didn't...
Where are you based over there?
Stuttgart, so the southwest, big city, sort of a bit bigger than Canberra, I guess. And really good party scene and that. And I just went out one night and stumbled into some club and kind of got involved in that kind of music and really liked it, and everything else that went along with it. And I had a really good time over there.
Yeah, unreal. And now you're back in, and then that was a fair few years over there, kind of honing the craft in the tech sort of genre.
Yeah, I never really thought about being a DJ. I was just interested in it, and I became mates with a couple of guys over there, and they kind of showed me, how to do it. And this was back when we had to use, vinyl. There was no consoles and stuff that they have now, so I kind of learnt, the old way of doing it, and a little bit in production with sort of the first version of Ableton. They showed me a few things like that, and that's obviously improved dramatically over the last 15 to 20 years. But that was it was just a hobby, I found some guys that were cool to hang out with and drink beers, and kind of just got the enjoyment of it from them.
Yeah, unreal. And how did you guys link up back in Canberra?
He was on the other side of the road, and I threw a strawberry across from assembly and hit him in the head. No, I was doing some stuff with Jack, doing the bouncing, and Jack and Scalzi are thick as thieves, and just kind of wiggled my way in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history. Now doing a bloody podcast down the road.
Who would have thunk it?
Yeah. And I guess coming from the hospitality sort of world, what's and you helped launch Assembly, is that right? So that was how long ago was that?
That was 4 years ago now.
Yeah. So that was sort of a big thing for Braddon, because it was the first after Hopscotch to open a real big size venue.
Yep.
And the challenge of having those two venues quite close, I imagine, would have been one of the thoughts.
It wasn't so much going up against each other. It was just bringing more people into Braddon, I guess.
Making it more of a destination.
I mean, Braddon started to become a pretty cool 10, 12 years ago now. Italian & Sons was one of the first restaurants, and then you got 86, and then it slowly built from there. Hopscotch came in, and, you know, next thing you know, all the car yards and the mechanics are gone. And, I guess we were the next one in line, and just fortunate enough to have that big space where you could have 300 people inside and 200 people in the beer garden out the back, and the Canberrans just
flocked it.
Yeah.
And they still do.
They still do. It's been it was a funny time to open, a hospitality business. I'm not sure if you remember. Like, we opened mid 2019, and then in the summer, that's when all the bushfires started, and Canberra was just riddled with all that smoke. And then we got out of that and then straight into COVID. So it's only like this start of this year that we've really had a good proper run at it.
Yeah,
you can really look at your numbers and compare it to the last year. I guess. Yeah.
You were pretty much a bottle shop for a while there.
We were a bottle shop that was a funny time, wasn't it?
It's so weird to think about now.
Yeah.
It's like
it feels like it was so long ago when we started that bottle shop. We were just like thinking so hard about what was going to happen if COVID did reach Canberra, and then next thing you know, like that, we were in lockdown, and we're just like, fuck.
And was that sort of the first? So you said you were working at Suburban. Was that your first switch over into hospitality?
So, yeah, Assembly was my first full-time job in hospitality. So
so quite a welcome.
It was quite a welcome, yeah. And going from being the busiest place in town, doing 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. shifts 6 days a week, into the bottle shop. To be honest, the first couple of weeks was like a little holiday. I was just living on Lonsdale Street anyway. So it was just...
Everyone thought, it'll only be a month or so and we'll be back. Yeah.
Had you always had a passion for food?
Oh, yeah, I've always loved... especially when I was, growing up as a carpenter, I loved going out to restaurants and trying all the new food, but also drinking wine and educating myself on wine. And, every family function that we had, my dad and my uncles would just get so excited because we would, take a new bottle of wine, and, they would do the same thing, and we're just, tasting each other's wines. And that's how I got really into wine. But obviously food and wine just go hand in hand together so well.
Was that at big family Lebanese functions?
Arabic.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And you're very hands-on with the stuff at Corella and...
So in that first lockdown, we got approached by the guy that owns the space that Corella's in now, to see if we wanted to take that lease over. So that was just sort of by chance, Corella. And it was a bit more of a passion project, a bit more refined and, more intimate, and, just something we actually enjoyed putting our time into. And then that, opening that, we were straight away into Gourmet Traveller magazines and all that. So, it was just non-stop from opening Assembly and then straight into Corella. It's been unreal, actually. Yeah.
How important things like being a good traveller and say even people leaving reviews on Google and that?
It's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah. Especially the Gourmet Traveller, because it's a national magazine. So you get people from Sydney reading that, and they're coming down for Canberra for the weekend. Right. They just, I've seen you in Gourmet Traveller. We had to come. It's big. It's big publicity, which is it's awesome.
And it seems like Canberra's always punching well above its weight in the hospitality world. Do you think that's
recent?
Yeah,
like, as of late, Canberra's hospitality scene is doing really well, I think. Well, there's a lot more venues opening, and it's just holding everyone else accountable. You've got to be one step ahead of what everyone else is doing. You've got to have your finger on the pulse. You've got to you can't get complacent, I guess. So it's just becoming more and more competitive, but there's still a big, like the Canberra hospitality scene, it's like one big family. Everyone knows each other.
Yeah.
Everyone supports each other. Everyone's, happy to go to each other's restaurants and just get behind each other, which is what I think that's really awesome about the Canberra hospitality scene. Doesn't matter if you're a bar or a cafe or a restaurant or a pub, everyone gets around each other.
And I'd noticed that and was actually surprised at how well the different groups work together and communicate. I was sort of thinking it's a bit of a dog-eat-dog world and there'd be a bit of professional rivalry or something there, but it does seem like they legitimately do try and help each other.
Everyone cares about everyone's business, I guess. If you're in it for all the right reasons, then everyone will get around you.
And what do you think that is? I've never really worked much in hospitality, but I'd imagine in other cities it might not be quite like that. Do you think there's something about Canberra that sort of made that happen?
Yes, I've never worked hospitality anywhere else in Australia, so I can't. It feels like in Sydney it's a bit more cutthroat and everyone holds their cards a bit closer to their chest. But I think like Canberra as a whole, and we saw that in the lockdown, Canberra really coming together as a community and supporting local businesses with all the takeaway but all Canberrans are very proud about everything from Canberra, whether it be, the wineries, Capital Brewing, the little restaurants that are getting, noticed around the country. They're very proud, and they don't take it for granted. So I think like Canberra as a whole, just is this one big happy family community.
Yeah, I definitely reckon that's it. And the punters too in Canberra just seem to love going out to new things, trying new stuff, and whenever something new opens, it's like everyone goes to it.
Yeah. And that's the thing at the moment. There's so many venues opening. At the moment, there's a lot going on, which is good for the town. It's really good for the town. All the people are a bit more spread now. There's not the dominant venues that 10 years ago there was 3 venues that you'd go to. There's a lot more spread now. There's a lot more variety.
And is there going to be music involved in your new venue?
In the dive bar, it's going to be a bit more of a live music venue.
Yeah, awesome.
Yep.
So, and I guess with Assembly too, well known for some epic Sunday arvos in there, and
got a little bit in trouble for those ones.
Yeah, they're kind of right now.
Yeah, so is that what it was? Those that caused that the famous one night shut?
Yeah. So that's there was just a lot of noise complaints. We were just having too much fun with it, and we were taking the piss there a little bit, but having the 2 apartment blocks right on the back of Assembly doesn't really help our case.
I mean, you see this happen in every big city. It happens in Melbourne, down around Collingwood and Fitzroy. It's happened in Sydney, and these areas become popular. 15 years ago, though, it was a car yard. No one wanted to live here. Now it gets popular because of places like Assembly and Hopscotch and Corella and everything else there. But the people move in there for that, and then once they get there, it's like, we only want you to make noise on the nights we're going out. Don't interrupt me. You're all moving to that place because of what's there, and then complaining about what's there.
Yeah, they're the ones that wanted things there, when it was quiet anyway.
Yeah, if you don't want the noise, move out to Woden or something. I guess it's just very
frustrating.
I
mean, we were being a bit loud, to a point, but anyway, it's all done now. We had our fun.
You might not be able to answer this because you've got to be careful, but how difficult is Access Canberra and the Canberra government to deal with? To me, from the outside, it hasn't had to do anything with them. It seems like very rigid, very much got to have every document for every single thing. And
you just need to be well organised, and you just need to play ball with them. Yeah.
When I've seen them come in when I've been bouncing at places, and I guess they got to try and justify their job, but they look for.
Everyone's got a job to do, right?
Yeah.
And there are rules in place for certain reasons, and the right reasons. But if you work with the government, the government's going to work with you. It's a two-way street. So you can't go talking to them with your back up, and otherwise you're just going to get nowhere.
What do you think the closing hours should be of places in Canberra? Keep in mind we're a world capital, so if you go to, Washington or Tokyo or Berlin or London, granted they are bigger cities, but you can go and get a meal any time of day. You can go and get a drink any time of night.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a delegation of some people from the Netherlands here just recently. It was about 10:30. They wanted to get something to eat. So you got a choice between Macca's or a pie from the service station.
And it's not so much that our hours are, we're supposed to shut at this time. It's just Canberrans, they love going to bed early.
You reckon that's what it is?
Yeah, they love going to bed early. Like Corella's license is till midnight, so we can stay open till midnight if we wanted serving food. But if we stay open past 9 o'clock on a weeknight, or even you struggle to have people in there eating right up until midnight on a Friday, Saturday. So I think it's just we're a small sleepy town. We're not a big city yet. It's on the way. The more people that move into the city, and there's going to be more demand for that. But there's no demand for it at the moment. Yeah, you might get a few people that want to eat late, but
it doesn't warrant paying the wages.
It doesn't pay the wages, and it doesn't warrant keeping the shops open that late.
Yeah, we're barely a 7-night town even. Like, Mondays, Tuesdays, it's deserted in the city. And
I mean, Corella, for example, like 30 seats. We're always quite full between 6 and 8:30 on a weeknight. Anything after 8:30, it's not much happening.
And how have you enjoyed the Corella project? Like you've very much taken that. The wine is also one of your specialties there. It's very different to what Assembly does, and so it's kind of, were you able to build it a bit more?
You just tailor it.
Yeah.
You just tailor it a bit more. So Assembly's it's so hectic, and it is fun. It is fun working there. Everyone's coming through the doors, and like in Canberra, you know every second person in Canberra. So it's a bit more matesy and hectic, but Corella, you can actually get a bit more excited about working there because it's, well, for me personally anyway, because it's something that within the industry that I'm in, it's those subjects that I actually like talking about. I can get excited talking to people about this wine or why we've done this with this dish, and so it's a bit more easy to get excited about working there.
Yeah, awesome. And what do you think is the future bright for Braddon, and what do you think's next in Braddon? Obviously, you've got the stuff going over the road now into the city again.
Yeah.
But what do you think Braddon's?
I think Braddon will stay as long as. It's a bit hard to say at the moment because the cost of living and everything is playing a massive part with just how regular people are going out or what they're spending their money on. But hopefully that sort of comes back around full circle soon. But I think Braddon's always going to be a little hub of Canberra. As long as we've got some good operators on the street, and you just keeping it edgy and keeping it up with the times, I think Braddon will always be humming along. But who knows? Like, there's got to be a new little hub in Canberra that pops up soon in the next 5 years. So it's going to be interesting to see where that is, whether it's old Kingston again or.
Didn't Monica used to be the spot a while ago?
I think that was even a little bit before my time.
Was it?
Yeah, there was a couple of nightclubs out there I never went to, and a couple of little restaurants, but.
A few people talking about Phillip too,
so there's a lot happening out there, Phillip and Woden area with all those. That's almost essential of Canberra now, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've got Fenway, and then there's that other pub. What was that one?
The Albi.
Albi,
yeah. Albi, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a little bit happening out there, but
Canberra's always going to be like that kind of these. Like
the thing is with Braddon is you've got a lot of those trendier sort of people around, like people with a little bit of money in their pocket that live around here, people that are happy to, they might live in apartments, so they're happy to go out and eat, most of the nights, whether it be just getting a little dumpling feed or spruce and spending all your money at Corella or 86 or Italian and Sons, places like those. I think that's a real advantage for Braddon is I guess the people that are living around here a bit more trendy.
Bit of disposable income.
Yeah, more disposable income.
The kind of people that disappear a couple of times a week, they play golf while Harry and Matt do all the work there at Corella.
Hey, what happens when you get to the top?
You be the boss, that's right. That's what you want.
Build your own life. And what do you reckon? You were mentioning earlier that that it was more profit. You were making more money bouncing than DJing. What do you reckon needs to be changed in Canberra for that? Because we've had we've had huge success with all these restaurants in Canberra, but the clubs and night spots maybe have lacked a little bit, and it surprises me to hear that that's the case. Like, not that they shouldn't earn that much money, but I mean that someone who could choose can choose to be a bouncer.
Yeah, basically. The clubs are still paying DJs the same as they were 25 years ago. That $50 to $100 an hour type thing. Just for your basic type. Locals will come in and keep the dance floor going. But I guess they're restricted by the finances of it all. If a place is bringing in 300 people, well, then they can afford to spend a bit more money and give the DJs and the entertainers a bit more. But when like at the moment, all their rents are going up, their mortgages are going up. That disposable income you're just kind of talking about, it's not there, so it filters down, and they use less bar staff, they use less glassies, less entertainment. Instead of booking entertainment, they might just play Spotify through the speakers. It's all just about, I guess, supply and demand at the moment.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that want to be DJs, especially now because it's so easy to be one. I mean, with the consoles and the mixers now, you can pretty much teach anyone to DJ in the space of 20 to 30 minutes. The auto, syncs for you. It can tell you the key of every track. You can put it on loop to slowly transition out. It's not the skill that it sort of used to be. So there's a lot of people that want to do it, and they like being up the front on the stage and jumping up and down, and there's plenty of people that want to do that. So when that's the case, you got more supply than what you have demand, and that's why we're still getting paid the same as what they were, 25 years ago.
Mm.
Plus, you could probably have a longer shift being a bouncer than a DJ.
Yeah, that's true. To start at 8. Well, the other thing that's good about bouncer too is the other sort of perks, and like an assembly, you get to have dinner there first. So I'll go there, and I think we're only supposed to get like the Palmers or something, but I'll make sure I get the ribeye every time I go in there.
You bully the poor staff, don't you?
Yeah, no, what? I look after them. You were the one getting kicked out the other week. Kicked out of your own place.
Hey, we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I guess the other thing with that as well is security's in short demand at the moment in town. I run security at the Defence Department, and we're just giving away jobs at the moment. Anyone that's got a security licence, and the groups that own the sort of the club scene of the bouncers, they're in such need of guards that they've done the opposite of the DJs. The wages have gone up. There's people earning $50, $60, $70, $80 an hour. Just standing at the door.
Not
doing
doing
nothing.
much.
Not doing much. Having a bit of a laugh and a couple of drinks on the side and free feed from assembly. It's not a bad gig.
It's not so much as LSG. It's a few of the other security companies in town that just got shirt fillers, I guess.
Yeah, there's a few like that, and that's just the nature of the business at the moment. There's not enough good guys around to do it.
And is it something you want to get back into, doing live sets, or you said earlier more focus on the production now? Yeah,
not really. I don't sort of like how the DJing's gone, where now it's like you kind of stand up there like a priest on a pulpit, and everyone's sort of looking at you, and the guys are fist pumping, and I saw one the other day. They were doing a shoey in the middle of their set and stuff like that. And you can do that now because you don't have to spend as much time queuing up the records and getting everything exactly right like you used to have to do. You can basically set a track up and have the next one ready to go in another 5 minutes, and you can be there partying and jumping around, and that's just not my style. I much prefer sort of the older places where you weren't the centre of attention. The music was what people came for. They didn't need to see you, jumping around and carrying on, and that's just not my style, and I'm not sort of interested in doing that.
Yeah, and yeah, maybe that's partly the venues changing too, from being more those nightclub venues to more like it's while you're having your cocktails and stuff now.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that like the sort of the showmanship, but I don't really have that in me. As far as I think you have to have a little bit of a wanker in you to be a DJ. And I've got a little bit, but not quite enough, I think, to do that. So Skulls, might disagree, but yeah, I mean, I much prefer the production side of things now. I get a real kick when I get a DM from someone on the other side of the world that says, "I love this track. I played it out." They send me a video of it. I had a guy from Pakistan send me a video of him using one of my tracks. I never thought Pakistan, of all places, would be playing the music. Yeah. And I had Solomon, who's one of the sort of world's big DJs, play one of my tracks at a festival over there in Croatia. I had another one send a video from Pasha in Ibiza with one of my tracks being used, and it's just kind of cool when you can make something in your cupboard in basically what I've got in Braddon, and then the next thing you know, it's sort of playing somewhere else in the world.
Enjoying it across the world. Yeah, that's
what I get the sort of satisfaction from.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy the internet, what the internet has done to music now.
And you got to be a part of it. I was talking to someone the other day, and she was kind of getting a bit annoyed about how you have to spend so much time on the social media side of things and promoting it.
Yeah.
And that's really what you got to do. And different countries have different platforms. So, Facebook's pretty much dead here as far as promoting music. I mean, for whatever reason, people don't kind of engage with Facebook. They engage more with the Instagram. And then overseas, the US, they're much more into their Twitter and stuff. Then you go back over to the Middle East and they're all just Facebook. All Facebook through, Eastern Europe and stuff. So you've got to just cover up all your platforms, your Instagram, your Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, a web page. It gets exhausting after a while.
TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok. I tried TikTok for a while, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
I can't. I don't even have the app.
That's probably where I've had the most plays from. My agent that puts together and releases all my tracks sent me a message and he said, "You've got almost 800,000 videos made of your tracks on TikTok." And I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, they make little videos and then they add your song to it." And they went and looked at it and there was like 832,000 videos have been made. And I said, "Well, that's got to be worth something for me. How much is that?" And he said, £2.45. 800,000 plays. It wasn't even enough to buy a cup of coffee. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, the internet puts it out there, but it doesn't really pay the artists back for it.
No, and I think, it's in a way it's good. Pretty much anyone can reach a worldwide audience now if they've got a little bit of talent and, they get lucky, they put something together that's, gets viral. But on the flip side of it, no one's selling CDs for $30 anymore like they used to be, and that was where the money was.
Yeah. So what's your biggest platform at the moment where a lot of your streaming happens? I
try and focus most of it on Beatport because that's where I get paid the most from. Yep. So you get $1.69 US from every song that goes on there. I also use Spotify and that. And again, that's similar to TikTok. It's bugger all. I've probably had a couple of million plays on there, but I doubt I've made more than £100 off Spotify. But definitely the Beatport, because that's where you upload your best quality tracks, and that's where the DJs download them from. So they're not sort of just listeners. These are people that are going to download your song and use it in their sets.
Yeah. Yep.
And yeah, you were talking earlier, so the security stuff, and you were saying you've actually gone recently over to the Ukraine.
Yeah, so it was a while ago now, it was last year, but the company I signed a contract for over there were the providers for security on the Almanard Air Force Base, and this kind of coincided to when the war started, and they also got the contract to get about 20,000 refugees out of the Ukraine into Poland and onto the UK for settlement there for the duration of the war. So we had the contract for that. So we went into Poland, put all the logistics together, and we're basically going back and forth over the border, shuffling people in and out from, the Ukraine onto Poland and then onto the UK. So it was a very eye-opening experience. Saw a lot of things that were a bit disturbing. You see sort of kids that were 4 or 5 years old that had been walking for 100 kilometres because they'd been forced to leave their cities and stuff. So I became pretty passionate about the cause there, and I follow it pretty much every day to see how it's all going. It was a very interesting experience.
And what was that time like? You got the contract before the war started, and then next minute you find yourself over there in the midst of a war. Is that right?
Yeah. So I went across in January to work on the Air Force base. There was no war then, and then it broke out sort of late February. And then the UK made their promise of, I think they wanted to bring in 100,000 refugees, and Serco were a British-based company, and they gave them the contract because they had also, just before I got there, they got all the Afghans out of Kabul before that all sort of fell apart. I guess they had a good job with that, so they're happy to use them again for getting them out of Ukraine.
And so that's at a time when everyone's trying to get as far away from the Ukraine as they possibly can, and you were in there at the time, and what were your thoughts back then? Like, do I leave? We need to stay and finish this job? Or
I quite liked it because I enjoy being in an interesting situation, and that for me was the most interesting thing going on in the world at the time. So I never felt scared at all over there. We were a fair way away from where things were actually going on. But it was very rewarding, sort of getting people out. There was some difficult situations where they weren't allowing anyone of sort of healthy men or women from 16 over to, I think it was 40 or something, unless they had children to leave the city or leave the country. They were sort of conscripted straight into the military. So you had a lot of families kind of breaking up, at the border going into Poland, and then, the wife and the kids going across to safety, but the old man having to head back to Kiev and suit up and, head to the trenches somewhere.
Amazing. Yeah. And what was your sort of day-to-day job there?
We were just driving buses in and out, and the logistics of, checking passports and all that sort of thing, getting them with the paperwork ready to send them on to the UK. But it was really just about getting people out of the danger and into a safer country right on the border there with Poland.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that's awesome. No, really cool work you guys are doing over there.
What was a little bit funny, the first 8 weeks that I was in Dubai, they kept me in a hotel, real nice hotel, and there was a lot of Russian tourists there. Like, that's the number one tourists that go to Dubai. And, I remember having a couple of conversations with them and stuff by the pool, and they'd always say, it's just horrible that this has had to happen, but we had no choice. And it was just interesting sort of seeing their point of view. Putin couldn't do any wrong. And they got a bit of a shock, I think about a week in. Visa and MasterCard and American Express cut all their ties with anyone in Russia.
Yeah, right.
So all these guys, sort of these upper middle class Russians that had a bit of money couldn't access any of their money in Dubai. So all of a sudden they couldn't afford to go out for dinner, they couldn't afford to go to the clubs, they were just stuck by the pool pretty much doing nothing and trying to get a flight back into Moscow. So it was kind of fitting, I thought.
It's funny.
Yeah, I imagine pretty rare for you that someone was able to see both that side of it, like the Ukraine side on the border, and then you're seeing the top of the Russian, not the oligarchs obviously, no. But the people that are affected on the other side. This sort of, it's a weird dynamic seeing both that.
They say Putin's basically consolidated his base in Russia because he's built a middle class, similar to what they've done in China. They've now built a middle class. It didn't exist. There was always just the polar opposites. But it's this middle class that's keeping Putin, in charge. It's not the oligarchs. It's the ones that are, got decent jobs and make similar wages to, say, public servants and stuff here. So they've got a disposable income. And they're the ones that have kind of solidified his base. So they're very, they've come out of being poor to now having a bit of money, and they really do thank Putin for that. So it's going to be a hard break before the whole country really turns against him, because he has produced a decent-sized middle class over there.
And did you make any friends, any people you keep in touch over there still to this day?
Not in Ukraine. I did at one stage before I came back to Australia. I went and spoke with at the embassy down in Abu Dhabi, and was going to volunteer for basically they have a foreign legion type of thing. So I was going to volunteer for that, and had basically agreed to it. And I was going to head over in February, just gone. But once my old man got sick and stuff, I just scrapped that and just came back to Australia. So I was sort of, started to appreciate so much that was going on there that I wanted to still be a part of it more. Mm-hmm. So I was planning on being a medic and, security and stuff over there. But, it never eventuated. Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, I can imagine once you see that sort of stuff, you feel like you have to go back and help. In a way,
you do. It sort of touches you. You can't, anyone that sort of went there would have been, felt for these people that were basically for no real reason, turfed out of their homes and families split apart, and it's not a good look.
Mm. You think you'll eventually go back over there?
Not while the war's going on.
Yeah,
no, I would love to go back at some stage and just, see the place during peacetime, but no war's going on at the moment.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your stories. And guys, what's next? We obviously can't wait for the new venue. But in the when do we know when roughly that'll be
towards
launching?
The end of the year.
Towards the end of the year.
Towards the end of the year. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Everything's full guns blazing in there at the moment. So. Pending delays and everything towards the end of the year.
Unreal. Yeah. Well, looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's exciting.
And all the best with it.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a big job, I know.
It's a massive job.
Getting that up and running. Yeah. And new music, albums, anything we can...
I'll just keep playing around with it a bit. No plans to do anything special. I'll just keep chugging away, and hopefully one day I'll find one that someone makes a TikTok dance to and has 800 million views.
Viral. Yeah.
I'll retire and just hang out Corella all day.
Sounds good.
As opposed to what?
As opposed to doing that.
Yeah, you're living the dream already by the sound of it. Yeah. But yeah, what better place could you choose? But lads, thank you so much for popping into the flats and talking to us. It's been a awesome chat, and all the best with what's next.
Thanks very much for having us.
Thanks, guys.